There was no advance announcement, no early promotional images, no deliberate teaser released to the media. Just a quiet early morning in Beijing, and the moment Xiao Zhan appeared, the industry paused, even if only briefly. At a time when many assumed he was fully immersed in filming in Jinzhou, his sudden return to the capital unfolded without fanfare. A late-night flight, a tightly packed schedule, and a role that carried far more weight than a routine appearance. Xiao Zhan arrived in Beijing not to perform, not to promote a new project, but to stand on stage as a keynote speaker at the 2026 China Internet Audiovisual Conference. What made this moment notable was not merely his presence, but its timing, and the composure with which it happened. Audiences are accustomed to seeing Xiao Zhan under bright lights, framed by music, applause, and spectacle. This time, however, he appeared differently, more restrained, more grounded, as if the spotlight itself had shifted from performance to purpose. There was no dramatic entrance, no overt display, yet the significance was unmistakable. It quietly reignited a familiar question among observers. Where exactly is Xiao Zhan standing now in his career? And what stage is he preparing to enter next? Only a day earlier, he had still been filming in Jinzhou, Liaoning province, for the television drama A Good Remedy for a Small Town. The project itself carries a grounded, realistic tone, far from flashy, far from trend-driven, and demands sustained focus from its lead actor. Moving directly from an active film set to a national-level industry event is no small feat, especially during an intensive production schedule. Yet this transition highlighted a trait long associated with Xiao Zhan: an ability to control his professional rhythm with precision. Over the years, his career has rarely been defined by sudden surges or impulsive exposure. Instead, his appearances tend to feel deliberate, as if he knows exactly when to step forward, where to stand, and in what capacity. This time was no exception. What captured attention was not simply that he attended the conference, but how he did so. In previous years, Xiao Zhan's presence at the China Internet Audiovisual Conference was tied to performances and artistic presentations, moments remembered for emotional resonance and refined storytelling. Those appearances emphasized expression. In 2026, the shift was unmistakable. For the first time, Xiao Zhan took the stage as a keynote speaker, a position centered not on performance, but on representation. It was no longer a space for musical or dramatic display, but one reserved for voices seen as capable of reflecting broader values and perspectives within the industry. That change carried symbolic weight. It suggested that Xiao Zhan is now recognized not only for popularity, but for the credibility of his voice. The role of keynote speaker is not granted lightly. It signals trust, maturity, and relevance beyond the individual. And it is that progression that has drawn public curiosity. In recent years, Xiao Zhan appears to have gradually stepped away from the image of a rapidly rising star and moved towards something steadier. His public presence has become less frequent, but more intentional. He is no longer everywhere, but when he appears, it matters. He does not dominate trending lists through controversy. He does not rely on constant exposure. Instead, each project, each appearance, aligns with a consistent narrative, long-term commitment to the craft, and careful selection over noise. That is why the confirmation of his keynote role did not shock many longtime observers, but it did prompt closer attention. For those familiar with his trajectory, this was not a sudden leap, but a natural continuation. Industry watchers have noted that his participation this year extends beyond a single event. It reflects how Xiao Zhan is increasingly positioned as a representative figure, not just for entertainment products, but for the values the audiovisual industry aims to promote in the digital era. What makes the moment particularly compelling is that despite the increased responsibility, his personal image remains unchanged. On arrival in Beijing, he appeared calm and composed, dressed simply, showing no visible fatigue despite the overnight flight. This detail circulated quickly online, not framed as endurance or sacrifice, but as professionalism. To many viewers, These understated moments reinforce his image more than grand statements ever could. There is consistency between how he presents himself publicly and how he works behind the scenes. No declarations are needed. No dramatic gestures required. By appearing at the right time in the right role, Xiao Zhan created his own emphasis. As discussions continued online, the focus was not on whether he would attend, but on what he would represent. Would his speech reflect on the evolution of the audio-visual industry in the internet age? Would it emphasize social responsibility, an idea increasingly present in his recent work choices? Although the specific content of his address has yet to be revealed, the anticipation itself speaks volumes. Not every artist can generate expectation for words rather than performance. That in itself signals a shift. On January 22, 2026, Xiao Zhan arrived in Beijing from Jinzhou with a clear purpose: to participate in the China Internet Audiovisual Conference, one of the most influential annual gatherings in the field. The conference is more than an award ceremony. It serves as a platform for industry reflection, discussion, and alignment, bringing together creators, platforms, and cultural figures to consider direction and responsibility in a rapidly evolving digital environment. Xiao Zhan's role as keynote speaker placed him within that dialogue rather than at its margins. At the same time, his schedule highlighted another defining aspect of his career: discipline. Just one day earlier, he was still filming on location. The overnight transition between production and public engagement required careful coordination and strong focus, not only from him, but from his entire team. According to on-site reports, he arrived early and proceeded directly into work, maintaining a steady and composed demeanor. There were no signs of strain, only efficiency. For many observers, this quiet consistency has become one of his most recognizable traits. His presence in Beijing also coincided with other major industry events. His attendance at the Weibo Night Awards on February 5th has already been officially confirmed, an event often seen as a barometer of public influence and industry standing. Other potential appearances have been mentioned cautiously, though without formal confirmation. Even so, the broader picture is clear. Xiao Zhan is entering a phase of concentrated, carefully selected public engagement. Viewed together, this Beijing appearance is not merely a stop in a busy schedule. It represents a moment of transition, from film set to forum stage, from performer to speaker, from individual artist to cultural participant. And perhaps that is what continues to hold public attention. Not the surprise of his appearance, but the direction it suggests. As his roles expand and his voice carries further, one question remains quietly open. How will Xiao Zhan continue to define his place, not only on screen, but within the larger cultural conversation?